Chào mừng quý vị khách mời và các vị đại biểu đang theo dõi tọa đàm trực tuyến với chủ đề Why Việt Nam? Tại sao Việt Nam? Do nước chủ nhà.
Organized by the host Vietnam within the framework of the online forum and exhibition 2020, Virtual Digital World 2020. It is streamed live in a platform developed by Vietnamese enterprises at www.digitalworld2020.vn. Please follow on that website. Ladies and gentlemen, guests of honors, distinguished guests, after more than 35 years of attracting investment and renovation, Vietnam has attracted more than 26,000 of foreign investor projects with a total registered capital of nearly $350 billion. The FDI region has made a great impact with a spillover effect to all sectors of the economies with the cyber contribution of the multinational ICT corporations. However, so far the efficiency of foreign investment in Vietnam has been as expected. The linkage between foreign investment and the domestic area has not been quite tight, especially the transfer technology has not been quite effective, and foreign investment from MNCs on Andy and digital world is still limited. And the world economy so far has been in the growth period, mostly based on technology and innovation. So Vietnam needs to develop its new competitive edges to enhance foreign investment efficient in the digital era. And our talk today, with the participation of 10 guests, will be discussing, clarifying the advantages to attract investment of Vietnam in new period from the perspectives of national strategy of digital strategy, digital market, and also the enterprises. We have the great honor to introduce the guest of honor, invited guest, Mr. Đỗ Công Anh, Deputy Director General of the Authority of IT Application from the MOIT. Mr. Nguyễn Thanh Tuyên, Deputy DG of the IT Department of MIT, Ms. Đỗ Thị Quỳnh Trâm, Deputy Director of the Investment Promotion Department of Da Nang People's Committee, Mr. Dennis Pretty, President of Ericsson Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos, Mr. Nguyễn Hồng Cường, CEO of Nasdaq Vietnam, Mr. Thiều Phương Nam, CEO of Qualcomm Vietnam and Cambodia. So we have the great guest of honor from MOIC enterprises and also from other places, Mr. Lâm Nguyễn Hải Long, Director of Quang Trung Industrial Park, Mr. James Dong, as CEO of Lazada Vietnam based in Thailand, Mr. Aurelion Palaz, Director of Ubisoft Vietnam based in Da Nang, and Mr. Ravi Vajpayee, Director of HCL Vietnam. Mr. Very is on quarantine in Hanoi. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, first of all, would like to start with the perspective on the digital transformation of Vietnam. Mr. Đỗ Công Anh, Vietnam has promulgated the National Digital Transformation Program by 2025 and orientation to 2030. Being the agency in charge of the drafting, please share with us some views on this, its objective, and so breakthroughs. Solutions. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. In June this year, the Prime Minister promulgated the National Digital Transformation Strategy by 2025 and Vision to 2030, defining to turn Vietnam into a digital country which is stable, advanced, and prosperous. Also with the piloting of new activity, and also to pilot the regulation of the government, the working method of the people, and also to develop a kind of safe and humanistic and widespread digital environment. The double objectives is that in addition to the development of the e-government, e-society, e-economy, but also development of capable digital enterprises to be able to go broad. I'd like to review on some of the key objectives for the digital government. One of the key objectives is to bring 80% of the online services, public services to level 4, 100% of the national database to have the foundation for the e-government, and to put Vietnam into the top 70 countries in terms of e-government. In terms of the digital economy, we are striving to achieve 20% of a digital economy out of the GDP, and the ratio of digital economy of each sector should be at least 10%. In addition, we are striving to be among the top 50 in terms of information technology, in terms of competitiveness, and top 35 in terms of the innovation indicator. For the digital society, we are striving to have 80% of the broadband into each of the family, 100% at the communal level, and also to popularize 4G and 5G. And also, we are striving to have 50% of the people have the kind of the account for e-payment, and Vietnam among the top 40 countries among ensuring information security. I'd like to share with you such vision and objectives for a digital Vietnam. Thank you for the attention. Thank you, Mr. Đức Quang from MOIC, for the very brief but pertinent and succinct point on this. From the perspective of enterprises, there will be the kind of expectations. Mr. Nguyễn Hùng Cường, the CEO of Nasdaq Vietnam, given the determination of the Vietnamese government in the national digital transformation program, in the future, Vietnam will have a kind of dynamic digital market. So from a perspective of a digital companies, more than 20 years operation in Vietnam, how do you view the digital market in Vietnam? And what are the opportunities for foreign investors? Microphone, please. Vâng, hàng năm thì chúng tôi thường mời rất là nhiều các khách hàng tới
search for the business opportunities here in Vietnam. And we often do kind of research in Vietnam to show to people on why they should come to Vietnam and should invest and should work with the companies here in Vietnam. So according to research from World Bank, Vietnam's GDP grew nearly 3 times for the period from 2012 to 2018. Many business sectors in Vietnam have been exponentially growing in the last few years. And we know that more than 50 million Vietnamese people are using smartphones. And Vietnam ranked number 7 in the world in 2019 in terms of the number of applications downloaded from the mobile devices. And the non-cash transaction is nowadays growing rapidly in Vietnam. So we, according to a report from the payment department of the State Bank of Vietnam, the total value of transaction via the interbank electronic payment system in the first 5 months of 2019 increased about more than 23% in the number of transactions and increased more than 17% in transaction value over the same period in 2018. So we see the enormous opportunities for the foreign investor to come and do business here in Vietnam in the sector like AI, big data, etc. E-commerce is nowadays very popular in Vietnam, especially during the COVID-19. We see that Vietnam has been, reacting very well to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have many global clients come to Nasdaq recently and ask for help because they see that their teams in other offshore centers could not cope well with the COVID-19. They could not, allow people to work from home very productively. But in Vietnam, we can do it very well. The work from home now becomes a new normal to many companies here in Vietnam. So during the social isolation in Vietnam, Nasdaq Vietnam allows more than 1,700 staff working from home full time without any impact to any client's project. So this is a very maturing market nowadays for the foreign investor to come to do business here in Vietnam. That's our view. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is clear that the sharing by Mr. Nguyễn Hùng Cường is a kind of attractive perspective on the potential of a digital market in Vietnam. Taking part in this virtual talk, we also have a person based in Thailand, Mr. James Dong, the CEO of Lazada Vietnam. Mr. James Dong, having listened to Mr. Nguyễn Hùng Cường, could you share with us your views in this regard? Opportunities are like coupled with challenges, especially with the new business models being a successful e-commerce enterprise in Vietnam and the region. What do you think about the Vietnamese digital market, and what are the challenges for the digital companies? The floor is yours, Mr. James Dong.
Sure. I actually want to share both
Tôi xin được
the
chia sẻ với quý vị
I actually want to share both the opportunity and the challenges.
về vấn
Right?
đề
So
cơ
on the
hội cũng như là
opportunity
thách thức.
side,
Vâng,
it is
về vấn
actually very,
đề
very
cơ hội
clear.
thì chúng ta thấy là
The government is
chính
super
phủ Việt
supportive
Nam
of the digital transformation, and we all know that Prime Minister
chuyển đổi số
is
và trên hết là ngài thủ tướng
is trying to make Vietnam the digital economy by 2020, right? And the government is doing everything that they can to help the entire society to transform. And I think the COVID-19 is another trigger. It is very unfortunate. However, this pandemic actually make people and organization, whether it's SME or large brands or platform like us, to think about how to accelerate digital transformation. So these are actually, I would say, the opportunity for promoting digitalization. However, the challenge, right, is also very obvious. I think especially during the pandemic, the first is I think most of the companies, whether it's SMEs or large companies, are not ready, right? So after the COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen the seller and the brand onboarding to become 300% higher than same time last year. And then, but when they come on board, we evaluate their digital readiness. We feel like it is totally not there yet. They still need a lot of different support, training, stimulus package, and so on to be able to perform in this digital e-commerce world. And the second biggest challenge I feel is the funding, right? Most of especially the SMEs, most of these business, they actually lack funding. We did a survey. 1 out of 4 sellers on our platform, they said that they have serious issues of getting fund, right? So, we work with financial institutions and trying to get macro loans and make it faster and easier, and it became very popular. However, we just started doing that a few months. I'm very sure that, there are a lot of SMEs out there inside Lazada system or maybe even outside Lazada system that actually really lack funding. So these are the opportunities and challenges that I see. Thank you.
Xin cảm ơn. Thank you. Lazada has been in Vietnam for quite a long time. But in today's workshop, there is a newcomer to Vietnam, a new investor preparing to fulfill the formalities to come into Vietnam with attractive. Mr. Rajiv Vapi, HCL Vietnam. HCL is considered to be the leading Indian software group, making the investment decision with a large size in Vietnam. So could you let us know what are the main factors for you to select Vietnam as the investment destination? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Xin chào, Vietnam. I have just come into Hanoi and I'm in quarantine, so I could not be there in person to attend this. The question is very interesting. We have been studying Vietnam for some time now, and based on our own study and the third-party research that we had done, we thought that Vietnam is the right country to be in for the ICT industry, and it is the right time to be in Vietnam. So some of the factors that we looked at was the fastest growing economy in the region, with a pre-COVID $262 billion GDP growing at the rate of 7%, dynamic ICT industry close to $11.5 billion with a industry CAGR of around 13 to 14%. The government and the Ministry of ICT are providing a lot of SOPs to foreign investors and the vision of the Prime Minister to have a digital economy by 2020 and 2025 and 2030. Apart from that, we also looked at the education sector in Vietnam, and we were really very impressed by the quality of students who are coming out of schools and universities and colleges who have the potential to become our talent pool. And apart from that, the good infrastructure in terms of connectivity to the rest of the world, the overall situation, the power situation, the networks, the telecom revolution that is coming in, HCL decided to have our center in Vietnam, and we are looking forward to setting it up as a hub for the entire ASEAN region. And not only the ASEAN, we want to service our global customers back in the Western world, and for that matter, in Japan and Asia and Australia and New Zealand. So these are some of the factors which we looked into and decided that this is the right time to be in Vietnam. Thank you.
Thank you, the boys from the Indian participant. So now another familiar company to Vietnam, Mr. Dennis Brunetti, the president of United Ericsson Vietnam, and also the president of Erisco in Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. Mr. Brunetti, being a kind of leading group, leading the world ICT technology, how do you think IT company taking part in the strongly developing process of digital transformation globally, and what is the plans? What are the plans of Ericsson in Vietnam?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for the invitation today. Ericsson's been operating in Vietnam since 1993. We're a 146-year-old company, initiated in Sweden in 1876, but in Vietnam since 1993, we've been building the 2G, 3G, 4G, and we hope the future 5G networks as well, which has increasingly connected Vietnamese people, whether they're living in urban areas, rural countryside, or mountainous minority areas. People benefited from connectivity, mobile connectivity in particular, and there's no question in our mind, of course, that the socioeconomic development miracle phenomenon of Vietnam over the last 30 years has certainly been driven very much by traditional inputs to the economy, such as low-cost labor, of course, in manufacturing and land and natural resources. But the next wave of socioeconomic development will be driven by science, technology, innovation. It'll leverage the connectivity that we've already built in 3G, 4G networks that already drove the first significant benefit in terms of society and economic environmental benefit in Vietnam. But the 4G, 5G transition, I think, will be even more dramatic than 3G, 4G. What 4G did for the apps economy and for consumers and users of smartphones, 5G will do for enterprises. So through 5G, mobile operators like Mobifone, VNPT and Viettel and Vietnam Mobile, in partnership with vendors like Ericsson and others, we will basically build the 5G digital infrastructure that will sustain the next wave of socioeconomic development and environmental benefit in Vietnam. So that's our contribution, and we will work together with many manufacturing companies around the world that are moving to Vietnam to help them digitally transform their manufacturing, because manufacturing accounts for 16% of GDP in Vietnam, and increasingly Vietnam is becoming an attractive destination for manufacturing hubs across many MNCs globally. And through Industry 4.0 and digital transformation through 5G, enabled by 5G and artificial intelligence and machine learning and virtual reality and big data analytics, all of these technologies are emerging and converging and maturing at the same time. Through that technology, and certainly through 5G as the critical national infrastructure, these manufacturing companies will become more efficient and productive in Vietnam, and that'll help Vietnam's continued sustained development and its competitiveness globally in attracting more investment and becoming really, I think, not only regionally but globally, the first and foremost investment destination country actually globally.
Thank you for the view from a company present here since 1993, quite a comprehensive perspective. So we have heard 4 points from 4 foreign companies in Vietnam. Mr. Đỗ Công Anh from MOIC, Ministry of Information and Communication. So you see that the companies, they have said there are many opportunities to take part in the digital market in Vietnam. What do you think will be the domains that Vietnam will focus on for the national digital transformation? What are the advice you have for investors in Vietnam? In the digital transformation, there are 8 priority domains. The first one is healthcare. In this, the priorities will be given to some kind of development of some platforms assisting from distant medical checkup and treatment, like a telehealth, telemedicine, to help the people access to the best quality of healthcare, not having to the higher level hospitals at the central level, for example, avoiding the kind of crowded context, right? Vietnam has been doing this quite well. Some major companies have been conducting telehealth, telemedicine to 1,000 points. And there are still lots of room in the market for other companies to come as well to to work in this field. The second field, the second domain is education. Priority is given to the development of some kind of distance learning and teaching platforms. The platform to help the management of teaching methodology, helping the schools to teach and to put the kind of materials online. This is also a very strongly developed domains during the COVID pandemic. In addition to education and training points like that, they also encourage the application of technologies to make kind of the different various teaching methodology, especially the personalized teaching methods customized to each of the students or pupils. The third domain is finance and banking, which will help provide a kind of digital banking, especially promotion for the cooperation with the fintech companies, the payment intermediaries to increase the financial coverage for the people, providing the financial services to the remote areas. Also to the target of 50% of the people will have the kind of e-payment accounts. The fourth domain is agriculture with a special focus on high-tech and smart high-tech agriculture, precise agriculture, smart agriculture with the solutions to be carried out. And also there are domains like transportation, logistics, energy, natural resources and environment, and industrial production. They are all domains with full potential in Vietnam. And we have to say that digitalization now is a kind of utmost issue for us to for the economic recovery after the COVID-19. In this regard, I'd like to ask Mr. Nguyễn Thanh Tuyên from the MOIC. Vietnam has declared the kind of the Vietnam business enterprise digital enterprises with an title of Make in Vietnam. Could you share with us the contents of this program? Over the past 5 years, our ICT industry Vietnam has become one of the spearheading the key industries of the country with the great contributions, both to the GDP, to the budget, and also for exports. The turnover of 2019 is about 112 billion US dollars. With a great contribution to the budget to continue to that impetus growth, and also with the breakthroughs in terms of policies, the Prime Minister earlier this year promulgated the directive on boosting the development of Vietnamese digital enterprises in Vietnam, named Make in Vietnam for short. I would like to rephrase as Make it in Vietnam, developing the product services from Vietnam to provide to the Vietnamese and world markets. The MOIC has submitted to the government Prime Minister 2 important documents, draft documents for the next 5 or 10 years. Vietnam ICT technology development strategy to 2025, 2030, and the application strategy. In terms of the targets for the development of ICT Vietnam, with the growth rate from 2.5 times higher than the GDP growth rate, and 100,000 digital enterprises in Vietnam, 1.5 million workers in the domains of digital technology, and development of products, making use of the key technologies of the Industry 4.0 in Vietnam to meet the demands of the Vietnamese and world markets, with the 7 main tasks as follows. First, to establish a kind of facilitating legal environment for the development of the enterprises, enhancing the capacity of the enterprises so that they master the technology research and enhancing the productivities and responsibilities of the localities in the development of their own ICT industries, development of the market via the prolongation of various programs, including the kind of national digital transformation program, as Mr. Dogong has said, great markets, and fifthly is to develop the kind of business ecosystem among the big, smaller startups and Vietnamese and foreign enterprises, developing the high quality human resources, and also last but not least is the communication activities on the enterprises. So we have mentioned a slogan, "Make in Vietnam." Come to Vietnam to manufacture. So could you let us know how can foreign companies taking part in the program? Yes, we know that at present Vietnam has been a kind of market of nearly 100 million people and working very strongly in terms of digital transformation. So it is quite a big market for enterprises, including the FDI enterprises. The FDI enterprises can build factories here, upgrading the factories, expanding the factories to manufacture digital products and services to serve Vietnamese and foreign markets. And Vietnam is also now wishing developing new technologies like the AI, IoT, big data, 5G, and also the development of the business ecosystems, as I have said earlier. So the FDI companies, they can take part in the process. Like Mr. Brunetti from Action has said, FDI companies can take part in technology transfer, beneficiaries, linkage with the domestic companies to create a kind of profits for both the Vietnamese and foreign companies to further thrive. Yeah, so make in Vietnam does not mean that it involves Vietnamese companies, but also foreign companies. Yeah, very important contribution of FDI enterprises, quite important. And we also expect for the spillover effect to Vietnamese companies. Mr. Thieu Phương Nam from Qualcomm Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. How do you think about the role of big companies in the development of enterprises, and how do your company, how does your company take part? Thank you for questions by Ms. Huyền, and thank you for the question from you to Qualcomm to take part in this virtual talk. We are a kind of we are the leading ICT developer in the world, investing more than 60 billion dollars in the kind of original technologies of mobile services. We have been in Vietnam since 2003, quite long, right? We are quite impressed with the strategy of the Vietnamese government in carrying out the kind of digital transformation with things like decree number 52 of the Politburo, especially the Make in Vietnam strategy. We see that the government has been with the vision that there will be 100,000 businesses and 10 startups of 10 billion 10 billion US dollars by 2030. 1 billion US dollars. 10 enterprises worth 1 billion US dollars by 2030. So we do the kind of the push for innovation in Vietnam. We have been working with lots of Vietnamese company, and the role of the MNCs like Qualcomm is to cooperate with Vietnamese partners, and we will be assisting, sharing the kind of original technologies, the kind of copyright for Vietnamese company to develop capacities to design and manufacture equipment made in Vietnam, not only for Vietnamese market, but also to bring such made in Vietnam products to the world. And to assist, we will be assisting in various domains with the mobile products, IoT products, and to push the support of the startup community in Vietnam. We also have the program of Qualcomm Vietnam Innovation Challenge, aimed at assisting the startup in the technology domain to turn their ideas into product and then for commercial development and to bring Vietnamese trademark to the world. So if small companies can be the satellites of big companies, but in the digital era, they can be the partners as well, not only the satellites. So in today's virtual talk, we have a newcomer in the domain of foreign investment in Vietnam, Mr. Ravi Rapai, Director HA Vietnam. You have been taking part in the from the quarantine place in Hanoi. Could you share with us your perspective having heard Mr. Thieu Quang Nam has said on the role of foreign companies in Vietnam, are you worried about the competition of Vietnamese company when you make investment in Vietnam?
Thank you for the question. So SCL is coming as a foreign direct investor in the ICT sector into Vietnam, and with big plans to grow over the coming years, where we want to set it up as a global delivery center. So we are looking at Vietnam in 3 different ways. Vietnam, HCL Vietnam for Vietnam, HCL Vietnam for Asia, and HCL Vietnam for the global customers. It's always good to have a robust domestic ICT industry and have competition in the industry. It also helps us to be nimble, and the best practices that we bring in from our global experience would also help the domestic industry grow over a period of time. What we would like to do is, there would be areas where we would like to compete. There would be areas where we would like to cooperate. So it will be more of a cooperation kind of a scenario for us. We are new to the country. We would definitely like to learn from our local partners, and we would like to definitely go ahead and do the transformation, the digital transformation initiatives that are being run within Vietnam. So we are not concerned per se. We are cautious, but definitely it's going to be a good journey for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So we would like to hear one more comment from a foreign investor, Mr. James Dong, CEO of Lazada Vietnam. So we understand that in our national strategy is focusing on developing 4 different types of enterprises, digital enterprises. So what is Lazada's strategy to promote your operations in Vietnam? Thank you.
Yeah, I think Lazada's strategy is very clear. There are 2 parts in this. The first is innovation, right? Since 2012, we were the first e-commerce platform in this region. And then after that, we started leveraging Alibaba technology after acquisition. So innovation has been a core part for us to make it easy to do business everywhere, and enable this whole platform and enable all these SMEs and sellers and the buyers with technology. Just giving a few examples. So for buyers, right, I encourage everyone launch your Lazada app, and you actually can compare your app to someone sitting next to you. I'm pretty sure it's going to show very different product to you based on your preference, right? And also the another example is live streaming, right? So during COVID period, actually, connecting people, make fun, and still, help SMEs and brands to the business and reach out to the consumers. Consumers can buy and see what they can buy now, see now, buy now, right? These are very interesting features. And also for the sellers, innovation is also important, right? We have very innovative marketing solution technology to help the sellers to select and promote their relevant product in front of relevant consumers in different part of the consumer journey when they use their app, right? So this is the innovation. The second big strategy for us is always try to be supportive of the participants in this ecosystem as much as we can. Namely, SMEs, those are the ones who really need support during this digital transformation, and especially during this COVID-19 period, right? So what we did was we accelerate certain businesses to meet the current needs. For example, in the past few months, when the pandemic hits the society, a lot of people started panicking buy. People tend not to go out that much. So we started, onboarding a lot of fresh sellers, for example. Right. So we started delivering meat, vegetables to our consumers. So it helped those sellers as well, right? And also at the same time, I mentioned very briefly about the micro loans. This is another thing, right? Because in the past, it was difficult for financial institutes to really screen the potential loan applicants. But we actually have a lot of historical transaction and performance data of these sellers. So we know which sellers are the good ones and with a very stable and growing business. So it helps both the seller who is applying the loan and also the financial institutes who is going to approve the loan, right? And then the third part we did is to be responsible and offer a lot of seller stimulus package during the difficult time, more onboarding, more training, more voucher, and so on for those a much larger number of new sellers. As I mentioned, right, 300% year-on-year growth in terms of the new seller growth, but we still provide even more support to them compared to what we used to in the past during this difficult time. So this three type of support is the second strategy that we're doing. Thank you.
Công nghệ số, xin cảm ơn. Yes, thank you very much. So with the development of e-commerce platforms like Lazada, the relations and interaction among people in the time of COVID-19 has been smoothened, I can say, and facilitated. So the next question I'd like to ask is, in the world, it is an open question. In the world now, the global economy is coming into a new phase of development, focusing more on innovation and creativity, and the comparative advantages of low-cost labor or low land taxes, etc., are becoming less important. So from the view of MNCs, what should be the new comparative advantages of Vietnam in the digital era? So first, I'd like to invite Mr. Aurélien Palas, Director of Ubisoft Vietnam. Can you share with us?
Hi, everyone, and thanks you for having us today. And thanks for your question. So just before giving you an answer, I wanted to give you a bit of background because I just moved in Vietnam in January. And before that, I was during the last 10 years in China. And I've been really been through the country digital transformation over there. And I really feel and can see that Vietnam is somehow following this path as well. And this is really what I can feel right now. And we can really see, and I've seen in China, the digital transformation opening a lot of opportunities for the country in terms of business and investment as well. I personally, James, moved from Taobao to Lazada since I'm here. So it's definitely connected, and we can really see that Vietnam is absolutely doing the right thing. For us at Ubisoft here in Vietnam is a bit different because we are here mainly to create content, video game content, entertainment content to distribute globally. Our main mission is not here to come with our content to Vietnamese people, but mainly to develop with Vietnamese engineer and Vietnamese designer, Vietnamese artist, games that will be distributed globally. And I think this is also a very good opportunity we have, especially here in Da Nang, thanks to the support of the IPA and the city's pillars to develop this business over here. There's very good university, and I think the investment that has been done thanks to the central government to educations and to infrastructure is essential for our reason and our steps as a company as Ubisoft to be here. Back to the market, the video game business overall is a $120 billion industry. This is bigger than cinema and music combined together. And today, this is the biggest form of entertainment in terms of revenue in the world. So, of course, Vietnam is an opportunity, and the country has a for its background. I do believe this is going to be a mobile-only country. So if we look at the internet and digital transformations, we move from computer, PC, internet, then to mobile first, and now to mobile only. And Vietnam, a lot of the user and the digital user are going to go through gaming, through internet, through e-commerce, directly with their smartphones. And this is going to be a big changer for everyone that wants to invest in this market. I think they have to keep in mind the size of the mobile possibilities. In terms of distribution in the market, so of course, with the COVID, everyone is playing more, everyone is on more e-commerce, including also in Vietnam. But still, for us, we are still in Vietnam, we are facing, the video game industry is still facing some stereotype that we have to work together with the government, with the investors, to make sure this segment is not considered for the engineer, for the designer, for the artist, not as a hobby, but really as a place where you can grow and develop your career. And I think this is going to be step by step, but we're going to need to work on bringing more mature content into this market. That means games which are more telling story, games which are with higher production value. And this is a way we will have more and more mature and a strong audience in Vietnam, so we can develop some passion, some career, and have more developer, more engineers that are not only willing to go to banking or e-commerce, but also which are willing to create games. Today, so this is the main issue we are facing here in Vietnam, is somehow the video game is not well yet received as a career, especially I think with the generation gap. Video game can somehow be seen as a loss of time. So we have to work on that together and bring more content, more events, and communicate better about this medium. Also today, Vietnam, in terms of distribution, is still not open to foreigner investment for publishing. So for developing game in Vietnam, we don't have any problem. But to distribute our content with companies overseas investment, it's still a bit more complicated. We have to work with local partner, which is fine. And this is what we were doing in China and what we are still doing in China. But I feel we have to be a bit more flexible here, so we can bring good production content, which is an extremely big investment. We are talking about, for the biggest game, it's hundreds of millions of dollars to develop a game. And of course, developing specific version just for Vietnam market today is not does not make sense in terms of economic business model. So we have to work a bit better with the government and with the local publisher here to manage to bring more international content into the market.
Thank you very much, Aurélien. I really feel that you have a very big passion for investment into Vietnam. Let's go back to Mr. Dennis Brunetti from Ericsson Vietnam. Do you think that investment into the ICT infrastructure, 5G and IoT will solve Vietnam's problems and create new comparative advantage?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't see problems. I just see opportunities, actually. Vietnam is on a high growth curve and continues to be on a high growth curve. The government and the people of Vietnam have done extremely well, and they've been extremely visionary and demonstrated a lot of foresight and strategic thinking in terms of their investment in ICT. If you look back at, I think it was mentioned earlier, maybe by Nam, the Resolution 52 by the Politburo on Industry 4.0, that's a fantastic initiative that will see Vietnam's GDP accounted for about 20% by, or the digital economy rather, will account for 20% of the GDP of Vietnam by 2025, and about 30% of the GDP of Vietnam will be attributed to the digital economy by 2030. And that's a very important initiative and an important target. Also, labour productivity growth rates will improve by 7% per annum by 2025. That's another important initiative within that Resolution 52. So clearly the focus is there. The Ministry of Planning and Investment are doing a great job in really promoting high-tech foreign direct investment into Vietnam. The last 30 years in Vietnam, $350 billion worth of foreign direct investment has been predominantly manufacturing-based, especially low-cost manufacturing and labour-intensive type work. But the next wave of foreign direct investment is very targeted towards high tech. So there's a lot of companies. I know also Qualcomm, are moving into Vietnam with R&D. A lot of companies are investing in R&D, and Ericsson is a proud partner of Qualcomm globally, by the way. So 5G is very much about global partnerships and ecosystem partnerships, and we work not only with global companies like Qualcomm, but also with local companies, customers, for example. We partner with all the mobile operators in Vietnam, of course, in building out 4G networks and soon 5G. So clearly, that's very important. And also, the government has done a great job in building out a startup ecosystem and putting a lot of focus on startup entrepreneurship and building up digital skills in terms of STEM training, for example, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, primary, secondary, university levels, and also vocational training, upskilling, reskilling the workforce, because within the next 30 years or so, about 70% of jobs in Vietnam in retail, forestry, fishery, manufacturing, and agriculture will be displaced by automation. That automation will be necessary in order for Vietnam to remain competitive in terms of its labour productivity growth rates that are required in order for it to be sustainable and productive in the future. But at the same time, the Vietnam government has done a great job in ensuring that new jobs will be created in the future. So new industries will be created through startup entrepreneurship. So the next Microsoft or the next Facebook or the next Apple or Amazon can very easily be Vietnamese companies. 2 or 3 students working together at home and creating the next big high-tech company. And I think Make in Vietnam is a great initiative by MIC and many other ministries in the government that are focused on really building a strong ecosystem of high-tech investment in Vietnam, not only with Vietnamese companies, but in partnership also with foreign companies. That coupled with EVFTA, the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement, which has now been implemented since 1st of August, and of course the CPTPP, and many other free trade agreements. Vietnam has about 13 or 14 free trade agreements in place today. So I think you've done a great job. The Vietnamese people should be very proud of really having increased the integration into the global economy and really making Vietnam a more attractive investment destination for all those reasons.
Yes, so as Mr. Brunetti has said, Vietnam has been taking strong steps. And at present, for the 5G domain, Vietnam is one of the few countries we have been able to manufacture some of the equipment. For that is a view from perspectives. Now I'd like to listen to Mr. Nguyễn Hùng Cường. Can you share with us your view in this regard? The floor is yours.
In the view of an FDI who have over 20 years experience operating in Vietnam, we see that, doing business in Vietnam, we have a lot of advantage, but sometimes we also face with challenges. It's understandable because in the fast-growing economy like in Vietnam, sometimes regulations and policies cannot keep up fast enough with the speed and the diversity of the economic growth. So we, especially for FDI, we are operating under the regulation from both MIC and also MPI, right? So sometimes the regulations have some kind of conflict, but we have another forum to raise. One thing I would like to acknowledge is that the Vietnamese government is very open and react very promptly to the feedback from enterprises, from businesses. One example, for example, recently, MOLISA, the Ministry of Labor, Invalids and Affairs, they are working on the draft decree on the regulation for the resource recruitment and management for the foreign organization here in Vietnam. And they sent out the draft decree to ask for opinions and feedback from the FDIs. And we gave our feedback, and we see that it reflected right away in the next version of the new decree, right? So we are very impressive with the speed of the government in listening to the enterprises. So I believe if Vietnamese government still can keep that spirit, stay like Steve Jobs say stay hungry, stay foolish, then I believe the digital economy of Vietnam will be growing very, very fast.
Vâng, cảm ơn.
Thank you, Mr. Nguyễn Hùng Cường. So it means that given a national DX program promulgated and the strong expectations and plans, the state regulators and the localities have their own preparatory steps to receive the new waves. Mr. Đỗ Công Anh from the MOIC, Authority of IT Application, could you let us know what are the preparations that has been made given the strong speed of development of new technologies and also the incessant creativity of technological companies, and will AI blockchain develop strongly, creatively in Vietnam? Yes, in some recent years, we have witnessed the kind of disruptive innovations. So, for example, with Uber and Grab, when they enter Vietnam, and also some kind of bitcoins or blockchain technologies present in Vietnam, it is an influx that we cannot resist willy-nilly. So there will be technologies which will be disruptive, but also changing gradually. And during the process of the change, that they will convert all the whole old model into a new one, and they will also be things which are disruptive, which will be with strong conflicts. So the government has seen this issue and has raised in the national DX strategy program. And some say that the institutional framework must precede as a kind of motive for development. So the government shall create a kind of institutional frameworks and policy to accept new things and to have new ways and methods of management. For example, with the newly arising at that time was the Uber and Grab. Yeah, they were newly arising at that time, right? And the experiments will become a kind of culture, allowing for experiments. But of course, the experiments will be checked and controlled within some space where the regulatory legal frameworks are not clear enough. Why we are preparing, developing, improving the legal framework. So our task and the task of each of the industry is to develop such a kind of legal corridors to allow for the experiments with the new models. And also we need to review all of the existing legal regulations so far in each of the domains to be ready to receive the new models, the new technologies, when they intrude into our domain, so that we can make full use of such efficiency. The good impacts on the society. So the actual program is ready for that. So it is here that the institutional work should keep pace with the breadth of life. Taking part here is a representative from the local authority, Ms. Đỗ Thị Phùng Trâm, Deputy Director of the Investment Promotion Department Division of Da Nang Municipal Affairs Committee. So the Vietnamese government has such clear strategies on rotation of DX to turn Vietnam to be the best places for companies to invest and invest. Da Nang has been emerging and expected as a kind of Silicon Valley of Southeast Asia. Could you share with us the orientation and preparations of the city in terms of infrastructure, human resources, and policy in attracting digital technology companies? Thank you for the appreciation of Da Nang as a new Silicon Valley of Southeast Asia. So in line with the attention paid by the executive committee and also the assisted from the central level government, the MOIC, we have been working strongly to develop the kind of ICT infrastructure and development of the digital technology. So since 2014, there was only 400 ICT enterprises there, but now it has been increased by 5-fold, more than 1,900 or 2 enterprises per 1,000 inhabitants, ranking second only after Ho Chi Minh City, contributing a large amount for the economic development, annual growth of about 20%, more than 20% annual growth rate, and for the e-government development and also the smart city development. The domestic and international organization has recognized Da Nang with the indicators like leading the country for 11 years in terms of the ICT index, Smart City We Go awards, and to attract the digital enterprises, the government, the local administration is already updating the policies from the central down to our level, and have the policies to assist ICT, for example, developing the plan for smart city for 2018-2020 vision later, and also the support policy for the digital companies, and also infrastructure development to access to the industry 4.0, as well as to develop the kind of overall structure for the municipal government. We have been piloting such a model in a kind of a smart district, and also in education and training domain. In September, we promulgated the plans to boost the ICT the technology enterprises with the development of products, human resources, and also development of enterprises, organizing the investment promotion activities, communication activities. In terms of the infrastructure, we have the three software industrial parks and ICT zones, like that of the FPT named FT Complex, and the concentrated industrial park of Trung Nam Group, such approved by the government January this year, and also in the park number 1 invested by the city. And we have also 2 weeks broke the ground for the second park, creating expected to create 6,000 jobs, organizing the activities, putting into operation in June 2022. And also companies like VNPT and CMC have been announced to study a project of the concentrated park like that. And we have been assisting the LG Group to set up the R&D and ICT IT center in our city. We also focusing on building a kind of advanced telecom system linking to the world, pioneering in the country to develop the kind of Wi-Fi and broadband system, wireless broadband systems across the city, assisting the digital enterprises to develop maximally, and also have 38 training institutions, including 20 universities and colleges, 18 upper secondary school and vocational training school, providing about 4,000 engineers, bachelors, and workers in the ICT domain. And we have also promulgated a kind of project of high quality human resource development with a triangle between enterprises, administration, and training institutions to provide the high quality, high skilled workers for the enterprises, and also to create a kind of environment geographically and also beautiful scenery and landscape to have a good living and working environment for them. So we can say that Da Nang has now been the convergence of lots of conditions to become a kind of a techno city, technological cities in our city to contribute to the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Cham, for your sharing. Obviously, Da Nang has taken proactive steps in order to attract more investment in ICT into the city. So going back to the title of our forum today, why Vietnam? So we have had very dynamic and interesting discussions so far on digital transformation and digital development in Vietnam. So can our panelists share their views on a very critical question? Is it good time for foreign investors to invest in ICT in Vietnam? So let's listen from the first one, Mr. Nguyễn Thanh Tuyên, Deputy Director General of the IT Department of MOIC. Thank you. This week, we could see that the Japanese Prime Minister, Mr. Suga Yoshihide, paid the first state visit to Vietnam after he got to the office. So, and this week we are also organizing the ICT World in the Digital World 2020 in Vietnam. And that reflects that many foreign people, foreign investors are considering Vietnam as top destinations, among the top destinations for investment. And many people have, many speakers also mentioned that Vietnam can become like a destination, not only for Vietnam, but also for ASEAN, for Asia, and for the world. And this is, I think, a golden time for foreign investors to come to Vietnam and make investment in the ICT domain. And there have been a lot of policies, supportive policies to encourage investments like in the healthcare sector and education, like telehealth, telemedicine areas. And Vietnam is, I think, among the very few countries that have been that have successfully contained the spread of COVID-19 so far. And we are sitting here, we feel really comfortable and really relaxing, while in many big countries like the US or European countries, people are still wearing masks, you know, in order to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Vietnam has also come into many free trade agreements like CPTPP or RCEP, RCEP. So Vietnam can be a good destination, not only for our region here, but also for many countries around the globe. And in addition to that, the government of Vietnam has identified ICT as a spearhead industry to be developed. And we have a stable government system, and we have set up several high-tech zones and industrial parks in order to attract foreign investments. Many big players like Amazon, Lazada, and also many big technology companies like Boeing, Qualcomm, etc., have found their ways in Vietnam. We also have a very good education system with thousands of training institutions that can train high-skilled workers and staff for the ICT firms coming to Vietnam. Thank you. Thank you very much. So Mr. Tuyên has given us his view about the investment in the ICT domain in Vietnam. So I would like to ask Madam Trâm. Da Nang just got out of, I can say, the second wave of COVID-19 in July. So can you share with us, for the time being, is it a good time to invest into ICT domain in Da Nang? Yes, earlier I already shared about the infrastructure conditions, our policies, and human resources available for foreign investors to consider when they decide to invest in Vietnam. I think that it is a good time to invest in Da Nang because in our mind, in our Vietnamese people's mind, when we are in difficulty, we say a friend in need is a friend indeed. And we are in difficulty, we really treasure all support, investment into our city. And from the viewpoint of the authorities of Da Nang City, we are willing and stand ready to support all companies, investors coming to Da Nang in order to find investment opportunities. Thank you. What about you, Mr. Nguyễn Hùng Cường?
Believe that it is a very good time for the foreign investor to come to do business in Vietnam. Vietnam has a very fast-growing economy. The GDP, according to the IMF forecast, may surpass Malaysia and Singapore within this year. Vietnam also have a very good, population size, nearly 100 million people and very young population, about 70% of population under the age of 35 years old. And students in Vietnam, they prefer the subject like STEM, statistics, so that about 80% of students, they go for the STEM subject. That provide a very good pool of talented resource in Vietnam. Like Mr. Thuy said, that in ICT we have nearly 1 million people in Vietnam working in this sector. So for us, yes, we believe this is a very good time with a very good infrastructure, booming digital economy. And for Nasdaq, we even think that the FDI should come sooner to Vietnam. For us, we joined the market in Vietnam 20 years ago. At the beginning, we have less than 10 people. And we have been growing on average at 34% every year. So nowadays, we have nearly 2,000 people in Vietnam. One example, we see that in the past, normally the state-owned companies or big banks can spend big budget for the technology and software solution project. But nowadays, more and more private companies are willing to spend a lot of money on this. So this year, despite of COVID-19, we still have a client in the real estate sector. They spend over $1 million for a B2C platform, for us to develop a B2C platform for them on the real estate trading. And they are going to spend a lot more to further develop this platform, and they see that is the future for their business. So now or never, the foreign investors should come to Vietnam and exploit this market.
Vâng. Cảm ơn ông Nguyễn Hùng Cường.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nguyễn Hùng Cường. Obviously, when we talk about ICT, we understand that it doesn't require a lot human resources. We understand that a company of just about 10, more or less 10 people can still earn a big revenue. So next, Mr. Dennis, I understand that you have been here for quite a long time. So what should be the breakthrough solutions?
Previous point, I would say the time to invest in Vietnam is not only now or never, but I would say now and forever. Actually, I think Vietnam is just going to, and I know that's what you meant, because Vietnam has been and will continue to be for a long time in the future a great investment destination. It's for one simple reason, along with many others, but an overarching one I think was demonstrated in the way Vietnam tackled the war against COVID-19, which is an ongoing battle, of course. But Vietnam was extremely successful up to now because you took a one country, a one nation, a one government, a one society approach, everyone united behind one common vision. And clearly that's something that as a foreign investor, as a foreign company, we love that. There's nothing better than to invest in a country that has political stability and one that has a strong long-term vision. And Vietnam has a long-term vision. The government has demonstrated that repeatedly in the past. And now as they look forward, they have an ambition of becoming a high middle income economy by 2030, by the 100-year anniversary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, and by 2045, becoming a high income economy, a dragon economy. And that will be enabled very much by science, technology, innovation. It'll be enabled by a critical national infrastructure, a digital economy based on 5G and in the future, of course, 6G. But certainly today, 5G will be the enabling innovation platform upon which smart city developments and National Innovation Center and all sorts of other startup entrepreneurship initiatives will be built upon, including the example we heard earlier in Da Nang. And we see also in Hoa Lac, here near Hanoi, the National Innovation Center established by the Ministry of Planning and Investment. That's a fantastic initiative as well. And then on top of all that technology and that vision around ICT, the government recognizes that data is the new fuel, the new oil that fuels the internet, which drives the next wave of socioeconomic development. They also recognize that it's super important to invest in training and education and making sure that the population of Vietnam is digitally capable and enabled. And there's a strong focus there, of course, as Mr. Kuong mentioned earlier as well. On top of that, it was mentioned earlier, I think also by Mr. Thuy and others, that there's a strong focus on administrative procedural reform. I think, Kuong, you mentioned that also. that the government very much listens to enterprises and has done a great job in incorporating new ways of working when it comes to administrative procedures, making them simpler and easier. So the ease of doing business index in Vietnam has improved year on year. So the World Bank has this global competitive index, which they measure every year against many countries, and Vietnam just continues to improve year on year. And then I would also add, as well as the free trade agreements, which we talked about earlier, which are very important, I would also add that there's a strong focus in Vietnam on inclusion. And through ICT, of course, and mobile broadband in particular, more and more people are able to be part of the success story of Vietnam in terms of the digital economy, for example. So we see now about 1/4 of SMEs in Vietnam, small medium enterprises, are run by women. So there's a strong gender diversity in Vietnam. In fact, I would like to add that I think globally, from when I recall last year measuring this, there was about 73% of women in Vietnam were gainfully employed. And that's one of the highest ranking in the world. I think it's one of the top 20 ranking countries in the world when it comes to inclusion of women in the workforce, and certainly in high position. So we really, as Ericsson, I am proud to say that we have many women working in our organisation, both in Vietnam but also globally, and we have a strong focus on gender diversity. So all these ingredients make Vietnam, and will continue to make Vietnam, I think, one of the best, if not the best, investment destination in the region and globally. Thank you.
Yes, so we are in the framework of the conference from 20 to 23rd, and the 20th of October is the Women's Day, Vietnamese Women's Day, yesterday. Thank you, Mr. Brunetti. So another opinion, who is in Thailand, Mr. James Dong from Lazada Vietnam. How do you think about this, Mr.?
Yeah, thank you for the question. You are asking a company who invested in this area 80 years ago. So yeah, from 80 years ago, we already see the huge potential in this market, right? Now I think we couldn't see a better timing. So a lot of people, the panelists have been talking about the economy and support and so on. I would also spend a little bit of time talk about two areas. The first is consumers, right? Young people. So there's a huge young population here, but the digital penetration and the savviness is getting higher and higher with the smartphone penetration over years. And now this is this year probably is reaching to a certain triggering point where we think it's already very, very high compared to all the other nations in this region. And I think another thing that I want to say is that when it comes to investing in Vietnam, right, in this whole digitalization area, I think having a right partner and having a supporting system matrix is very important. We really appreciate a lot of great programs that the government have been putting in place to drive digitalization from all these different angles. So we would suggest, anyone who is interested in investing in Vietnam in this area could work with government on certain initiatives so that it will be a win-win, right? And also, Lazada have been working with a lot of local SMEs and brands to serve consumers. So we are also looking forward to working with the other companies who are investing in this area in Vietnam, right? So together, we're stronger. That's all. Thank you.
So we'd like to listen to the representative from Da Nang, Mr. Aurelion Palace from Ubisoft Vietnam. Your opinion, please.
Yes, so for us, why Vietnam, and more particularly why we decided to invest in Da Nang. So first, of course, the IPA representative is in Hanoi today, but I'm not saying that only because we are here, but it's been really important for us that we felt to have local support from the government and the local administration. So it goes, for legal advice, support, setting up the company has been very smooth for us, and that's one of the reasons also we decided to invest in Da Nang. Also, the city and the country of Vietnam is still supporting us in many ways. Like, for example, it may look like details, but for us, it's very important here since, again, we are a creative development studio. So we really try to create content from Vietnam to the world. So we need at some point to bring talent, experts from overseas, from Europe or from USA. And the government, with the global pandemic situation, always been supportive to give us the visa when it's possible and make sure that experts can come here within the studio, work with the local team, and make sure the development of our games are going on the right directions. And this is example, but it's extremely important to have local support of the government here. Also, Da Nang is, of course, it's not the first reason, because when we decided to move here, the COVID-19 wasn't here yet. But also Da Nang has very good university, and the investment from the government on IT universities and art universities in Da Nang here are extremely good, and we have a lot of talented students and people trained that can really, it's really what we need here when we're trying to develop new games. Video games, it's at the carrefour between arts, engineering, and design. And developing a game is extremely complicated in terms of project management and team cohesion. And with the university, the local university we have here, I believe this is an extremely good place for any company which is willing to invest in Vietnam to move to Da Nang. Last but not least, Da Nang has the advantage of being very central location. So it's been very easy for us to get some talents willing to move from the other biggest region in Vietnam. So we've been lucky with that. Also, the international airport in Asia, very well connected to Korea, to Japan, is important because Korea and Japan on the video game sectors are very big creator. So for us, it's also very important to be able to have these direct connections so we can bring experts from them. And of course, Ubisoft, Da Nang is a great city in terms of life balance, because when you try to create new games and being creative and bring innovations, the work environment, the city environment is extremely important. You need people to be creative, to be happy and enjoying their free times. And the city of Da Nang is really offering many of these good balance between life and work that we may not be able to find somewhere else. So yeah, for all these reasons, it's good to invest in Vietnam, but particularly for us in Da Nang.
Thank you, the appreciation to Da Nang. I see that you are happy, you look very happy living in the Vietnamese city of Da Nang. So we'd like to listen to the last point from Mr. Thieu Phương Nam, the CEO of Qualcomm Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. What do you think about the point or to invest in Vietnam now?
At present, we are expanding our investment in Vietnam. Recently, we opened an R&D center in Hanoi. This is the first R&D of Qualcomm in South Asia. And Vietnam is emerging as a new technology center for the world, or technology hub for the world. And thanks to the various incentives and promotion campaigns initiated by the government. And now in 2020, in the wake of COVID-19, Vietnam can still attract over $38 billion of foreign direct investment. That is, I think, a new record. And that's why we have very strong belief that the market here will develop very fast in the future. And our objectives here in Vietnam is to produce our products in Vietnam, but then distribute throughout the world. And we are proud that recently we have been collaborating with a partner in Vietnam to provide the 5G products, the first 5G products. And hopefully in the future, the government of Vietnam will issue a policy allowing 5G to be implemented broadly in Vietnam, widely in Vietnam. And we can see that Vietnam is also a good hub for international trade with the multiple FTAs that Vietnam has concluded with various countries in the world, and also the capabilities of the people in Vietnam. I think the capacity, the skills of the people in Vietnam are also very good, especially like in science and technology, in mathematics. I think the talent pool in Vietnam is very good. And that's why we are very eager with our investment with our operations in Vietnam. And in the future, Qualcomm continues to be committed, strongly committed to our operations here in Vietnam. Thank you very much. Can you share one more idea? You and other panelists have mentioned about the advantages and the pros of investing in Vietnam. And obviously, Vietnam has a lot of incentive policies, good environment, high-skilled workers. So from your viewpoint, as a long-time investor in Vietnam, what are the cons? What are the disadvantages or limitations that you like to suggest to the government to improve in the future in order to attract more foreign direct investment? At present, Vietnam has attracted a lot of foreign direct investment in ICT domain, and many of our partners and even Qualcomm are expanding our investment in Vietnam. And there are, of course, always pros and cons, like there are always two sides to a coin. And our concern is about the human resource. With the fast increasing demand now, the quality of the human resource may not be able to catch up. It took us 2 years in order to recruit a sufficient number of engineers working for Qualcomm, especially in the newly emerging industries like mobiles or radio or imagery areas. And there are also very new areas in Vietnam like AI, blockchain, IoT, etc. So not only Qualcomm, but also old ICT companies in Vietnam are facing the same problem, the same issue. I think that is we do not have, or the human resources cannot catch up with the fast development of the ICT sector. And however, we believe that when we come to Vietnam, we are also ready to cooperate with all training institutions in order to train human resources for Vietnam in the future. Yeah, thank you very much. Our program is expected to last for 90 minutes, and we have about 7 minutes left. We'd like to listen to Mr. Nguyễn Hùng Cường. I think you have very good ideas and very yeah. So at this moment, we are talking about why Vietnam, and we have been saying that Vietnam have a lot of favorable conditions to attract foreign direct investment in ICT domain. So what do you think the government should do to meet the expectations of foreign direct investment and enterprise?
We also have this, question from many of our clients who want to go to Vietnam and to look for the business opportunities here in Vietnam, and they want to know the advantage of doing business in Vietnam. So I think in order to attract more foreign investment to Vietnam, we should improve the communication to the foreign investors outside. Because sometimes I still see a lot of them, they are wondering about the business environment here in Vietnam. So this is also one of the channel, right? We should have more of this channel to sell the information about Vietnam to the foreign investor outside. One example, every year, NASDAQ, we do 4 times per year. Every quarter, we invite about more than 20 executives from many of our potential clients in from Europe or America to come to Vietnam, to visit not only our office, our people, to understand how we work, how we deliver the service, but also understand the culture, the environment here in Vietnam. And many of them, they became not only our clients, but also became the investors here in Vietnam. So we see the value of, see it and believe it from the clients. They want to understand, to know more information about the business environment here in Vietnam. That's one thing that I find is very important for the Vietnam to attract more foreign investment from outside. Yeah.
Vâng, cảm ơn ông Nguyễn Hùng Cường.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Nguyễn Hùng Cường. Obviously, on an annual basis, many investment and trade promotion agencies like JETRO or JICA or COTRA have organized several campaigns to share information about the business and investment environment in Vietnam. From all of your viewpoints regarding the environment, the business operations in Vietnam. So I'd like to hear the final comment from Mr. Đỗ Công Anh. Can you share with us about the environment and conditions in Vietnam? I'd like to share some small pieces of information. Recently, I read a report by Facebook and based company, Singaporean company, about the ICT market in Vietnam, and there was a component on digital consumers in Vietnam. And the good news is that the number of digital consumers in Vietnam has been increasing fast and has reached over 59 million, and over 70% of our population now have access to smartphones and internet. And it is expected that by 2030, the total turnover of e-commerce will increase by 3.7 times compared to the current level. And this is the highest growth in South Asia. And in the wake of COVID-19, we could see that ICT development has been growing faster. And in Vietnam, thanks to the great efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19, and this year, the government has selected this year as the digital year of Vietnam. So I think that these can be good reasons, and even the COVID-19 can become like a turning point to make Vietnam to become like a new hub for not only the region, but the whole world in the future. Thank you very much, Mr. Đỗ Công Anh. So, ladies and gentlemen, so the digital transformation program is led by the government of Vietnam. But in order to realize this, and in order to make Vietnam to become like a digital country in 2025, that we need contributions from all stakeholders, including businesses, domestic businesses, and foreign investors. So our time is up now, and would like to conclude our forum here. And through this, through all exchanges and discussions at this forum, we can see that Vietnam has a very high aspiration to become a digital country by 2025. And throughout the discussions and exchanges, we think that we have been able to answer the question, why Vietnam? Why Vietnam can become an attractive destination for ICT companies, for ICT investors. And our forum ends here. And once again, thank you very much for your participation.